Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. So let's dig back in to Dress to Kill and our Lance of Prayer. So doing a little bit, of digging, I guess, in preparation for these devos this week. There's a lot, so let's just dig in. So again, and a lot of you have your Dress to Kill book from Rick. We're going to be pulling from that again a lot of the technicality of the lance, so feel free to follow along. I have highlighted and underlined and squared and starred in mine just so as a reference that I can go back and find it again later when I'm digging in again, because we know that there's always another layer to peel back. There's always something else that Holy Spirit has for us to see in the Word. So let's just go. There are many, many, many different types of lances that the soldiers would use, Roman soldiers, and then predating Roman soldiers. Rick talks about, in depth, because he is the Greek scholar, he talks in depth about the weaponry. Some were long, some were short. The shorter ones were for gouging the enemy, thrusting at an enemy up close. The longer ones, of course, were for hurling to stop the enemy in their track before they ever even got to the soldier, hurling at an enemy from a distance. This was, just think about how in the world could you use this and wield it effectively on the battlefield. So the Macedonians used a lance that was between 21 and 24 feet long. That, dear friends, is a telephone pole. Could you imagine having a lance as long as a telephone pole? I mean, how in the world how do you use that? That would, it's a question that I have. How would you use it? During one period of time, the average soldier carried as many as 5 short lances and 1 long lance. So they carried, 6 lances at once. And again, going back to yesterday, being in season or instant in season and out of season, you being ready to go, having what you need at the right time, not having to go back to camp or wishing you had a different one. So they carried as many as 6 at one time. I will say it's really interesting. Again, you can look in the pictures in the book, or you can do some study on your own in the way that they carried these. So these were not actually attached to the loin belt. They weren't, they didn't carry these in their hands. These were in a pouch on their back. So they would reach back in their pouch and pull out their lance, and that's how they carried that lance. So they would have a pouch full. Pouch is an odd word to call it, but that's what it was. A pouch full of lances that they could pull out at any time. Interesting about the one that was 24 foot long, this telephone pole, the longer lances had to be assembled on the battlefield. Again, how practical is that? That's one you want to go have in hand ready when at the time that you need it, not something that you would use or need, of course, in close combat, because again, it's 24 feet long. So those were particularly used for very, very specific uses. Just interesting, as we learn about the weaponry of these ancient times, what they did have and what they did use and how they used those things. So again, had to be assembled on the battlefield, and they carried their lances in a pouch on the soldier's back. One thing that I really liked, I was listening to a minister talk about this lance and prayer, and he called it a spear. So a spear, so lance, a spear of influence. And I really liked that. And so as we're closing out the day, I want you to think about how prayer could be equated to the spear of influence. So call it a lance of influence or a spear of influence. But of course we think of sphere of influence is what that sounds like. But how in the world could prayer be a spear of influence? And so we are going to pick up here tomorrow, digging in further into this prayer, this powerful weapon that we, the church, have at our disposal. So come back. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.